Hi everyone, my name is Camila. I'm a graduate student and teaching assistant here at San Jose State University in the Nutrition, Food Science, and Packaging department. Today I'm going to be walking you through 2 sheet pan dinners. The idea of these dinners is that we want to do our meal prep in a fast and fashionable way. I want to chop my ingredients, throw them on a sheet pan, toss them in the oven. 10-15 minutes later, all my meal prep for the week is done. Today we're going to start with the steak fajita sheet pan dinner. We can go ahead and use any protein we want, chicken, shrimp, you can even do tofu. We are making beef fajitas today. We are starting with a flank steak already ready on our pan. Then I'm going to walk you through how to chop some bell peppers, onions, which we're going to add around our flank steak. And then we're just going to finish off our entire sheet pan with some lime, a little bit of oil for cooking, and some seasoning mix. Today I've got taco mix. At the end, I'll walk you through what seasonings you can use if you don't have a packet of taco mix. Here is a bell pepper chopped in half. I have an empty bowl here. I like to call it my thank you for coming bowl, thanks to Chef Ann Burrell from the Food Network. I want to take out all of the seeds and the rib part of the bell pepper. All I'm going to do is take my hands under the bell pepper and rip this off. You can use a knife. I just like to use my hands. I'm going to shake the bell pepper just a little and knock off all the seeds. Now, sheet pan dinners are supposed to be simple. I don't want to have to take it out of the oven and then chop up a lot. So you'll see me take this bell pepper, cut it in half, and I want bite-sized pieces. And this will fit into my mouth better than chopping like this. This is my preference. If you'd like to chop your veggies anyway, up to you. Bite-sized pieces are easier for consumption. I'm just chopping a bell pepper, humming a song in my head. Fajitas are also an easy dinner because you can change up the vegetable selection. Today we're doing the classic bell pepper and onion, but you can use any vegetables that you've got, either in your craving box or your fridge box. I think some other selections that would go well for fajitas would be some zucchini, onions, yellow squash, mushrooms, especially if you're not a meat eater. Mushrooms are a great replacement instead of steak or tofu. I like to choose different color bell peppers, not just because it's more colorful, but color brings us different nutrients. Ever wonder why bell peppers come in different colors? This green bell pepper was picked before this red bell pepper. Red bell peppers are the most mature form of bell peppers, and that's why you get this nice vibrant color. When they are green, they'll start to change into yellow and then into orange and get to your most ripe version of a bell pepper. Bell peppers, red bell peppers, are more sweet. These green bell peppers tend to have less sweetness and a little bit of some bitterness. So I have an onion here that I have cut into halves, and I'm going to take out the outer layer of the onion. Thank you for coming, onion. Now you'll notice here that I left the hairy end of the onion on the bottom of the onion. The reason why I'm leaving the hairy end here is because my onion will stay intact. For the purpose of my steak pan dinner though, I just need to have some bite-sized moon pieces. So I'm going to cut as such. And now when I take the onion apart, I have these pieces that look like this. And I'm going to sprinkle them on my pan. Now you'll see that I am starting to take up a lot of space on this sheet pan. If you find that as well in your home kitchen, go ahead and grab a second sheet pan so that you can make sure everything gets enough space in between. This will help cook your vegetables and your meat evenly. Now I have most of my ingredients on the sheet pan. This is my flank steak with some peppers and onions. We're going to add our oil to everything. This will help make sure that we are adding oil to our steak and veggie, helps to cook everything in the oven. And now I'm going to take some taco seasoning, and you can add as little or as much taco seasoning as you'd like. You can add just some to your steak, or you can add it all to your vegetables. I like the taco seasoning just on my steak. Now that I have the oil and the seasoning on my steak, I'm going to rub everything together. Everything's going to go into the oven, so it's okay that I'm touching steak and vegetables. I'm just going to give this steak a little bit of a massage. He's got some nice oil here, some spices. Other than just massaging the steak for fun, I want to make sure that I get all the oil and spices mixed around nice and evenly. And now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I have oil all over the veggies as well, so that everything cooks. Without oil, the vegetables will just shrivel up and there won't be any, everything will go darker faster without the oil. The oil adds some flavor and makes sure that your vegetables don't overcook too quickly. The final step before we put this into the oven, we need to just salt and pepper our vegetables. And I'm going to add a little bit of lime juice for extra flavor. The other benefit of adding lime juice to meat is increasing the bioavailability, which means increasing our ability to access the iron in this steak. Lime juice has vitamin C, and vitamin C helps us access iron, which we need for a variety of our physiological needs, none of which I can think of right now. You'll see me go ahead and just stick my fingers in the lime. I'm just going to squeeze all of it over. Again, you can use as much or as little lime juice as you'd like. I like it citrusy, so I'm going to add an entire half of a lime. Now I'm going to add salt and pepper. The taco seasoning has salt in it, so I'm not going to add any salts to the meat. And pepper my vegetables. Now I'm going to throw this into an oven at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. Here is our sheet pan dinner that we have taken out of the oven. We've got some nice color on our vegetables, that means flavor, and our steak looks nice and cooked. We have pulled the steak out of the oven when it reached 140 degrees, and then we're going to let it rest for 10 minutes. You'll see here that the steak has some lines moving horizontally, and we want to cut against, this is called the grain. We want to cut against the grain. This is going to help us have a better texture when we are biting into the steak, and it will help cut the meat a little bit easier. Using my tongs, I'm just going to hold the meat in place. I'm still cutting against the grain. Another reason why we let the steak rest after we pull it from the oven is to make sure that all of the juices get another chance to recirculate back into the meat. And then I'm going to cut across so that I get some bite-sized pieces. Now that I have my beef cut up, let's go ahead and assemble some fajitas. Start with our plate. We've got both corn and flour tortillas. I'm going to choose flour tortillas for these fajitas. I like to set them up like this so that I can get all of my filling ready. This is my landing station. And then I'm going to start with the beef. And add our vegetables up top. And then we have some toppings here like pico de gallo. This is a fresh tomato salsa. Some cabbage for a crunch. You could also use lettuce. For those of us that like cheese, we have some cheddar cheese and some sour cream or yogurt as well. Some pico de gallo. And a little bit of cabbage for crunch. It's very beautiful. I'm so excited. Here we have our completed steak fajitas with some pico de gallo, cabbage, and flour tortillas. So here we go. We have made lunches and or dinners for an entire week in just about 30 minutes. We took about 10 minutes to prep our vegetables and then threw them all on one. Then we put all of our vegetables and meat on a pan. I like fajita sheet pans because they're nutritious, they don't take a lot of time, and they are pretty cheap. With our tortillas, we have our grain, we have protein in our steak, and we've got vitamins and minerals plus fiber in all of our fruits and vegetables. We are eating the rainbow. It did not cost us a lot of money, and it did not cost us a lot of time. The theme for sheet pan dinners is chop it all up at once, throw it on a pan, toss it in the oven. So we're going to do the same procedure. We're just going to change our ingredients. Instead of bell peppers, steak, and onions, today we're doing, or for this recipe, I'm doing potatoes, Brussels sprouts, and chicken thighs. We're going to season the sheet pan dinner with some salt, pepper, and garlic powder and basil. I like garlic powder in a pinch because I don't have to peel or chop any garlic, and I get pretty much the same effect. First, I'm going to talk about Brussels sprouts. This is a basic Brussels sprout I got from the grocery market. You'll see here that at the base of the Brussels sprout, I have some stems sticking out, and that's because a Brussels sprout stem grows like this, and the Brussels grow to the sides. I like to take the stems off. They're really fibrous, and they're going to take longer to cook. They're going to go in my thank you for coming bowl. Now you'll see that I have this end here that was attached to the stem. I'm also going to take that off. When you have smaller Brussels sprouts like this, they are younger Brussels sprouts. We're going to get more tender and sweet notes from a smaller Brussels sprout than we would a larger Brussels sprout. Just means that it stayed on the stem a little longer. In that case, go ahead and take off some of the outside leaves. Here is an example of a finished Brussels sprout. I have some healthy leaves here. My stem is cut off. I don't have any extra leaves on the side or any extra stems. And now I'm going to finish the rest of the Brussels sprouts. Actually, I should just show them like this. I'm going to take the bottom of the Brussels sprout and just chop off that last bit of stem so I get fresh Brussels sprout flavor. Okay. I like to cut my Brussels sprouts in half. One, I think that they look beautiful, and two, I'm going to get more even cooking. I'm going to get some nice crunch here. When you leave Brussels sprouts whole like this and you cook them, you run the risk of not knowing if the center is all the way cooked. Cutting them like this gives you a little bit more security. Then I'm just going to toss them on my sheet pan. Sheet pan. Sometimes potatoes will have eyes like this, and if you let the potato rest at room temperature too long, sometimes these eyes will grow. I want to take off some of the eyes that have formed, and you'll see that now I have no eye, but the potato is perfectly good. We don't really want to be eating the eye of a potato. Similar to the Brussels sprout, I'm going to chop these in half. Why am I chopping in half? I want to make sure that my Brussels sprout and my potato are about the same size. If you really want, you can leave the smaller pieces whole. You don't need to chop these. These will cook together as well. I'm actually going to chop these in half. It's important that the vegetables on the sheet pan are all the same size so that they cook evenly. Sheet pan dinners are a great idea because you don't have to have 7 pots and pans on your stove, but we might be disappointed if we have raw potato and overcooked Brussels sprouts. Cutting them the same size will make sure that we don't have anything overcooked. I'm just going to half these so that they're the same size as my Brussels sprout. Now this is just your sheet pan for you and yours during the week. We don't need to have perfect knife cuts. We just need them to be bite-sized and cook evenly. We need them to be the same size so that they will cook evenly and fit in our mouth. Now I'm going to put all of the vegetables on the sheet pan. I have all of the potatoes and Brussels sprouts on the pan. Everything is about the same size. Now I'm going to add the chicken, some on top, maybe some on the side. Adding the chicken on top of the vegetables allows some air to get under that chicken so we get the bottom part cooked as well. And you get to flavor your veggies at the same time with some of the chicken fat. After handling raw chicken, we wash our hands to make sure that we prevent cross-contamination. Raw chicken might have salmonella, and we don't want to get anything else contaminated with the raw chicken. I've got potatoes, Brussels sprouts, and chicken on our sheet pan. Now we're going to cover everything with some oil. We just want to make sure that the oil lubricates everything on our sheet pan. And then we're going to season with salt, pepper. Today I've chosen garlic powder and basil. You could use oregano or even some Mrs. Dash. Make sheet pans easy. They don't need to be complicated. Salt and pepper is always a must, though, in my opinion. We want to make sure that we get both of the veggies and the chicken seasoned. Okay. Now I'm going to add our garlic powder. Just sprinkle on everything. And some basil for sweetness and color. Now I'm going to throw this into the oven about 400 degrees for 15 minutes. 20 if you need to cook the potatoes extra longer. Here's a sheet pan that we already cooked. We have a different variety of potatoes, so we've started these potatoes 10 minutes sooner before we added any of the chicken or the Brussels sprouts. This way we can make sure that everything is cooked evenly and we're not going to burn the chicken before the potatoes are cooked. Now we're going to plate our meal. I'm going to start with the potatoes first. I'm going to add my Brussels sprouts off to the side. And then we're going to add some chicken on top. I like this piece. And here is another cheap, fast, and easy meal that is nutritious. Looks like it came out of a 5-star restaurant.